downtown Midland. It's the morning show on AM 1070 and FM 107.1 with Craig Anderson and Lisa Kay, addressing local, state, national, and world issues that affect you. To get your opinion on the air, call now 620-8700, 620-8700.
And Lisa's gone today. She should be back tomorrow and is on her special assignment, but we expect things to be back to normal tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Craig Anderson.
And I'm Lori Bong.
And Mayor Bong with us. You want to talk to the mayor? Our number is 620-8700, or you may text 432-222-2500. We would love to hear from you. And that text line, 432-222-2500, or you may get on the air, 620-8700. And Madam Mayor, the council meeting yesterday, I know I believe the food bank was one thing. But
we did honor the food bank for the presentation of the Hunger Action Month. September in the city of Midland is Hunger Action Month.
So what's that mean for us?
Well, we have a lot of folks in Midland and in surrounding communities that have what we call food insecurity. So the West Texas Food Bank responds to 19 different counties to provide food and support with other food pantries and other nonprofit organizations that partner with them to be able to get food into the hands of those that don't have enough.
And of course, Food Bank is different than Soup Kitchen, but Soup Kitchen and Nathan and everybody doing a great job there too. So.
They absolutely do, and they partner together. They provide food, but some of these are more faith-based, and then some of them are not. But we have a big network of folks that are providing for hungry people in our community. We're thankful for their work.
And Mayor, we've talked about this a little bit before, but the homeless, do you think there's a homeless problem? A difference between the homeless and those who are out panhandling, but do we have a homeless problem?
We do have some areas in town where we have perpetual homeless encampments and places where we have to work with them to try to get them housing. Also have had some instances over the last year or so where they've moved into vacant warehouses and really done a lot of harm to the facility, but also harm to themselves because the facilities are not safe for them to be in. So our police department is very active in making sure that those folks are moving out of places that are unsafe, getting those cleared. We also passed yesterday an ordinance, clear zone ordinance, that is specifically for pedestrian safety in a lot of our high traffic areas. And this ordinance allows us to clear people who are standing or waiting around or in other ways obstructing traffic at intersections. We know that we've actually seen a decrease in a lot of our fatal and really, really injurious accidents, but we've seen a rise in some of our pedestrian accidents and our bicycle accidents. And so we've decided that we need to turn some attention there. And so this ordinance allows us to enforce moving people out of those areas to provide safety for the vehicles, but safety for the pedestrians as well.
What do you do legally to clear out somebody that's encamped, a bunch of people encamped at an encampment, the homeless? I guess you trespassing? What do you do?
Well, our police department is very swift to respond to private property concerns. So if you have people on your private property that you want to be moved along, they are illegally trespassing and encamped on your property, then we can get that handled immediately. And our police department is very responsive to that. We have more difficult circumstances when it's an out-of-town property owner who doesn't know or pay attention to where folks are on their property. They are not going to turn them in, and so it's harder for us to go into some of those areas, specifically some of the areas around the Walmart on the south part of Midland. Some of the places where those encampments are taking place, we don't have the property owner calling us to say, hey, would you please move them out? And when it's private property, we have a limited ability to respond.
If it's your property and they are camped out, then I have the authority as the owner, I'm sure, to do something about it.
Yes, if you're the owner of the property, you can call us, call the police department, or call me or the city manager, and we can respond to that immediately and move those folks along. If it's someone else's property that you see this, we have less opportunity to do that unless the property owner asks us to.
All right, 8:12 now on KWEL, AM 1070 and FM 107.1, Midland Mayor Lori Bong. And from our text line, there's an accident. I-20 eastbound, West County Road and I-20, so bear that in mind and stay away from there. Lots of accidents, lots of traffic, and we just are going to keep growing, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Back to this trespassing conversation, we have some forms ready to go that are correspondent to some of our existing ordinances and law that we can provide. If you have a concern and you want us to see that in an area that does not belong to you, then you're able to turn that into us. We've also had some success in raising buildings like the apartments on Scarborough there to the west of A Street. Those apartments have been a problem for many years, and so we recently were able to work with the property owner to raise that property to provide a safer experience for that neighborhood. We're doing that in places all over town. The Triangle, you've seen down along Wall Street and Midkiff there, the Triangle with those dilapidated hotel motels that have had people encamped there. Those are beginning to come down, and we're pursuing this all over town. We recognize that some of those structures create little habitats for folks that shouldn't be there, and they're not safe. And so we need to make sure that we handle that.
Now, when the homeless move in, is it typical that they will be partaking of probably a lot of drinking and drugs? Does that happen?
That is part of it, but they are also looking for services. And so we have, typically people that are homeless are looking for the services that they need to be able to survive. And so they're going to various ministries and nonprofits for support, but then also places that they can find encampments. And so that's part of why they're coming. This is an area, though, I would point to the last 6 years of my time on city council and mayor. We see a problem, we develop a plan, and we go after it. And we've done that with the Triangle. We've done that with the apartments at Scarborough. We've done that in various different places around town. We've done that yesterday with this new ordinance that we've put in place. We see a problem and we're responding. And so that's an important thing to be a problem solver, not just a problem identifier.
All right, bring in a phone call. Welcome into the broadcast here on the morning show with Midland Mayor Lori Bong on KWEL AM and FM. Good morning.
Good morning, Craig. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
What is the plan to deal with the derelict, dangerous, empty buildings that are in downtown Midland? And I'd like to follow up with one more question.
Well, if you're talking about the Vaughn building, the ownership of that building has been charged for the cost of securing those buildings and making sure that people can't go in there. They have paid those bills, and so, but if we come to a place where we need to reinforce them further, then they will be charged. If they choose not to pay for those repairs and improvements, then a lien goes on their property. At this point, my goal is to rehabilitate those and to motivate those owners to sell to someone who will do something productive with their property. But so far, the Vaughn building ownership is not interested in that.
And as I understand it, they don't live here, and some of them may not even live in the country. It just seems like we're stuck with a big problem of an empty building that's taking up space that would be valuable to the citizens of Midland, and they just don't care. But my other question is, when is there a plan to finish the two on the south side?
Say that again. We dropped out for just a minute.
I was just wondering if there's a plan to finish the 250 loop.
Yes, so the Todd Drive overpass, that is the portion of the Loop 250 that is not completed, we actually put in $1 million from the Midland Development Corporation, went to design plans for that overpass, and we were able to attract $26 million from TxDOT and advance that project about 5 or 6 years from when it would have normally been completed. And so that project is actually going to be going to let, which means we're going to be hiring the contractors to do that work through TxDOT here in Q4 of 2025. So you'll see that work begin in 2026, and we will get that completed. And so the loop, that will be the northern portion of the loop. Now there's also the southern portion of the loop that would go down south of the interstate, and that is a future project. That is not something that all of the right-of-way is owned or anything like that. But we have completed the process to get the northern loop finished.
Well, thank you for that information, and thanks for the progress in Beale Park and other things that are going on. I do see a lot of things going on. It seems like some of those big buildings downtown are just a real battle to get anything done there.
I would agree with that, and I think that that's where public pressure on some of those owners, we don't have to be ugly and hateful, but we need to make sure that people understand we do not want long distance investors coming and dumping some cash in a building and holding that building, but then leaving us with an eyesore and a safety hazard. And so to the best of my ability as mayor and with the staff that I have available to work on this, we're going to make sure that those buildings are safe and secure and that we keep our people safe.
And I'm assuming you can't just go over there and start tearing down the building.
We cannot. I think that there's a level of disrepair where we then begin to have an argument for safety, but we're not there with this property. And I think almost every Midlander that I know really values private property rights. We don't respect the fact that this is an out-of-town property owner that's refusing to do anything beneficial with their property, but we also would not be supportive of going onto someone else's property and destroying it without proper recourse and going through due process.
And, of course, it would take a lot of money to tear down a building like that.
It would. And that's why it's been important to me, if we're going to be doing some of these repairs to secure the buildings, those property owners need to pay for that. And so they are charged the cost of those repairs for the time and materials and work, and then they either pay it or they have a lien on their property, and the city will get paid at the time that it does transact in that case.
Right, Lori Bong's on the radio with us. Lori is the mayor. If you would like to talk to her, our number is 620-8700. And the time, 8:19 now, brought to you by Brown's Barbecue, and they are serving up great breakfast burritos. Stop by and see Todd Brown and Erica, and you will get great food. It is so clean in there you could eat off the floor. If you wanted to, they don't care. It's going to be healthy, and the food is good. 4200 West Illinois, and you get a smile. All you got to do is pay for the food, and it's worth it. 1 block east of Midland Drive, and welcome into the broadcast on KWEL AM and FM. Good morning.
Good morning. I've got a couple of questions for the mayor.
Yes.
Can you tell us why the city of Midland is buying property in Martin County?
The city of Midland, to my knowledge, is not buying property in Martin County.
You said the city of Midland is not buying property in Martin County?
That's correct, Robin.
Have they been buying property in Martin County?
Not to my knowledge.
The Martin County Appraisal District says the city of Midland owns several properties. I think it's lists about 6 of them.
Well, we do have property in Martin County that we've owned for a long time that was bought decades ago for the airport. And so there was a conversation about moving Midland Air Park in central Midland out to Executive Air Park is what it was named, in North Midland in the edge of Martin County there on the property line. And so that was purchased decades ago again. And so we have owned that for a long time. And so there's a continual conversation about how best to utilize that acreage. It's not appropriate for an airport.
How much acreage is it? Just
2,000 plus acres.
Wow. Okay, I have another quick question for you.
Okay.
Did we go over our budget for the fiscal year 2025 with the city? And if so, how much?
I'm not going to get into specific numbers unless I have those in front of me. So I'd be happy to respond to you, Robin, and get you that information that you're requesting. But we have not, again, we've not purchased any property during my time as mayor in Martin County. That's all happened decades ago. And then within the city budget, we've stayed within budget overall. We've had some projects that have exceeded their budgeted items, but we are able to cover that through the fund balance that we have and with adjustments to other parts of the budget. So overall, we have maintained over $104 million of funding in our general fund balance, which is 203 days of money that we have in our savings account, 203 days of our budgeted process for our general fund. And so we are in a very healthy position. Typically, the best practice is recommended for a city of our size to have 90 to 120 days, and we have 203 days of fund balance right now. And also, the 2025 budget book is online, and so I would encourage you, we have everything about our budget, and then also our audited financials. Those audits are online, and so this really is a place where we've provided all of the information that is needed for folks to educate themselves, and I would encourage you to go and familiarize yourself with it.
Thank you for the call. Our number is 620-8700. You may text 432-222-2500. Back to the homeless, and kind of this isn't really a homeless question, but if you are a panhandler, as I recall, there's no law that you can, in other words, there's a state law or something that supersedes what you might want to do. Is that right?
Well, typically this goes back to freedom of speech, and that's the thing that at the state and the federal level, when people protest any sort of police interaction with panhandlers to remove them from an area, they would say you're infringing upon my freedom of speech in a public right-of-way. So if it is a TxDOT right-of-way or a city-owned right-of-way, those are public right-of-ways. They're not private property that that people can't trespass upon. And so they have a right to be there. And so if we have undue enforcement just specifically for the panhandling, then it can become a freedom of speech argument. I realize for a lot of us Midlanders, that sounds like a stretch. But that is the way that that's been handled in the court system around the state. And so what we've done here is we're not pursuing something that is an infringement upon your freedom of speech, but we are going to make sure that you are not in areas that pose a problem or a safety hazard to the pedestrian themselves or to the vehicle traffic.
All right, from our KWEL text line, where can I get a yard sign?
We'd be happy to bring you a yard sign. You can also pick them up 1505 West Cuthbert. There's some there by the front door. And we have a couple of other locations where you can get them. Or if you want to drop a note on my social media, then I have a great team that is delivering them around town.
And from our KWEL text line, why are your yard signs on just the one side of the city? The majority are on Cuthbert. Do you just want to represent that area? Just asking. I
live on Cuthbert, so that's part of why that they're there, because that's easy to walk over there and pick one up from my front porch. But also, they're all over town. I can tell you, based on just the reports that I'm getting from some of my friends and supporters that are delivering those, we're getting requests for them in every single zip code all over town. We'd love to be able to get more of them out there. And so if you have people that are supportive in a different area of town, we would be happy to deliver those wherever you are.
And welcome into the broadcast here on the morning show with Midland Mayor Lori Bong on KWEL. Good morning.
Good morning, y'all.
Good morning.
Howdy.
I got those homeless panhandlers. They're at, I guess it'd be Wall Street and Midkiff.
Yes.
Okay. There's an island there where you make your left turn onto Wall Street. They panhandle right there, and man, that is a dangerous, skinny place to sit.
Yes, sir.
And they have this one guy that's there quite often. Sometimes he's out there dancing and rubbing his head. You know, he's cracked up, I'm sure, but I'm afraid that one of them dudes are going to get run over.
Well, that's exactly why we put in the ordinance that we passed yesterday in City Council in our meeting. We will be able to move folks along from areas exactly like what you're describing. It's a safety hazard for him, and it's also a safety hazard for the people that are dodging him, trying to drive safely and get to where they're going. And so that's the purpose of the ordinance that we passed yesterday, and I think it really will be a benefit to all of us. But it's going to take us a little time to enforce it.
Okay, cool.
Thanks for the call. Midland Mayor Lori Bong's on the radio. And if you would like to join us, our number is 620-8700, Lori, from our KWEL Midland text line. Any serious talk about putting a fire station on South Rankin Highway south of I-20?
We have had conversations. You might be aware that we have an ISO rating of 1, which is the highest rating that you can get for the response time and capacity of our fire department. And so that means that they are able to get to where they need to be very quickly. You can get a benefit on your insurance, on your homeowner's insurance, if you identify that, of about $300 to $500 a year for the average property owner in Midland. Because we have that ISO rating of 1. But it's critical for us to have enough fire stations around town and enough firefighters to be able to maintain that ISO level rating of 1, to be able to respond quickly enough. And so there may come a time where we need something in South Midland to be able to respond. Our fire department and the EMS cover the entire county of Midland. So the city of Midland, the fire department is a city of Midland function, but we are providing fire and EMS coverage for the entire county. So that is a cost burden that the property taxpayers of Midland, the city of Midland, are bearing, and the county residents are getting the benefit of that. Right now, that is the way that it's been set up for decades. I think it's something that needs some evaluation, if that is really a fair and equitable way for us to pay for those fire and EMS services. Certainly, we want the county to have fire and EMS services. I'm not suggesting that we remove that coverage, but are we covering the cost of that? And not just the capital cost of an occasional fire truck or something like that, but are we covering the day-to-day operations costs? Just in this tax year alone, in this budget cycle, our property tax collections for the entire city of Midland is about $64 million. So everything that you're paying in for property taxes, the city of Midland collects about $64 million in 1 year this year. The cost of police and fire and public safety for the city of Midland is $99 million. So we have this significant shortfall of what is covered by property taxes because the costs have risen so much for police and fire and public safety. And so we're faced with this revenue challenge. We're able to meet that with other things like sales tax revenue and other fees that the city charges and other revenue streams as well. But you can see when we start talking about adding coverage of fire departments in some of these southern areas or around the city and the county, that cost goes up exponentially. And so we have to be really careful.
And we'll bring in another call. Welcome into the broadcast, 828 now at KWEL, and you are on the morning show with Midland Mayor Lori Bong.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Craig.
Good morning.
I hate to belabor the point on like the home issues, but it would seem to me that a big part of I know that there are people misfortunate that actually need help, but if we could limit that somehow through regulating NGOs and nonprofits to where they help people that are only over, 65 or that have a permanent residence that are from Midland. Because what we end up getting is just like with the border being open because of federal benefits, everybody in the world wants to come here and go to the Roosevelt Hotel and eat whatever they'll give them and all that. It's kind of the same thing. Once a city starts as a group, not necessarily as the public administration, but NGOs and nonprofits starts with, a worthwhile program where you're trying to help feed seniors and help out, single moms that have 3 or 4 kids or whatever. And next thing you know, it's anybody and everybody who, goes and makes a homeless encampment. There's no reason in the world for, a 20 to 45-year-old man that's physically able to not be handed out, food or shelter or all whatever it is that they're getting. It just creates more of them.
Well,
it makes it easy to quit.
I think you raised some really good points there, and I think it's important for us to think through the work that some of these nonprofits are undertaking. And we're really thankful to have a lot of these nonprofits, but I do think that there's a book called When Helping Hurts. And I think it's just a philosophical understanding. It's a book that I read years ago when I was working as a volunteer with a couple of these organizations. And there's a point where there is a diminishing benefit by the amount of help that you're providing. And so helping people in such a way that they're able to get out of their situation or find some other pathway to success, I think is really the goal. And some of these nonprofits come at it from that angle. Some of them don't. But I think it is why it needs to be a partnership between the city and our police department and these nonprofits. We're thankful to have a good relationship with those groups at this point, but we still have more work to do. And so the ordinance we passed yesterday is part of that effort. You're going to see more coming from our city council and from our police department to address these concerns because we have a plan.
I'm sorry, Mayor. Here's a text. My deal is when the city made the citizens dump smaller, and they don't take half the stuff they used to. So now I have to go to the dump on 158. The bad part is it's an automatic $45. So not only do I pay for the dumpster service, but also the dump. It used to be free, apparently, if you lived in the city.
So we have the Citizen Collection Center over there behind the post office, behind Claydesta there, to the south of the loop. And we're going to be creating it's actually in process, creating a new Citizens Collection Center over on the west side of Midland, kind of behind the drive-in movie theater, in that general area. Those are areas where you can take larger items, and if you can demonstrate you've got a water bill or you've got a city residence, then you're able to take things and dump them there. And so that's an option. Now we do have some restrictions on what can go there and what can't. But we have to think through this. This is one of the things that I've focused strongly on, is not having taxpayers subsidizing the cost of things that should be able to stand on their own 2 feet with fees, so that the person on a fixed income or the single mom who is living, the smallest, most budgeted life that she can to make ends meet, she should not be bearing the weight of citizens who are, using a lot of these other services like our golf course or our airport or even our public waste disposal, our solid waste disposal. We own, in the city of Midland, we own our landfill, and we have to pay for that somehow. And there are significant costs because of state and federal regulations for that landfill. And so there have to be user fees to be able to pay for those things for the people who are making use of it. And we want those user fees not to be exorbitant, but we also need them to help cover the cost that we incur. And so that's why those fees exist for the larger items where you're taking it to the dump. If it's going to the Citizens Collection Center, the items that are eligible there, we're happy to receive those.
All right, Lisa Kay is still on the job, even though she's on special assignment, and we'll get to an accident here. But a question for the mayor. I've noticed a lot of flocks, safety automated license plate readers around town. Who operates them, and where is the information stored?
So, say that again. I didn't totally follow.
Okay, a lot of flock, F-L-O-C-K, flock, safety automated, and license plate readers. Are they reading license plates? I guess. I don't know. Who operates these, and where's the information stored?
So the city of Midland does have some of these. We've used these successfully in some of the car chases and other efforts that we've had with our police department to identify and find. This is something that can supplement an understaffing problem in our police department. We have actually moved from 52 positions short of being full in our police department. Now we're down to around 10 because of good hiring practices and increasing their wages and making sure that we're taking care of our police department. But the only reason that we're using this is for folks that have a warrant out for their arrest. We're able to identify those. And this is something that's becoming kind of the best practice around cities in Texas and the United States.
Somebody else would like to know, has the city ever considered a transfer station for garbage?
We have a transfer station. That's what the Citizen Collection Center is. So if you drop it off there, then you're able to, have the more convenient location inside the city limits, or you can take it out to the dump. We also have periodic large item drop-off. We had one this past weekend. We advertise those on social media and through every other news outlet that we're able to get to run it. So those are options that we have. Another thing, if you have a large solid waste item that you need somebody to help you pick up, that's a good opportunity to use C-Click Fix. C-Click Fix is the app that the city has created to receive concerns and complaints and issues from citizens. You can go into that app. You can let us know that somebody dumped a mattress behind your house and you need somebody to come pick that up. If you're able to get into that app, you can file that in a C-Click Fix report, and then we can have someone come out and respond to you. And typically, unless it's a really extreme case, if it's just a large item pickup like that, then there's not that corresponding cost.
Okay, I know it's a little bit late. Is that okay?
Yeah, I have a little bit more time.
All right. From our text line, any talks or requests to annex some of the Greenwood area into the city or a vote for it?
So we only do voluntary annexation in the city of Midland. We do not annex people who don't want to be annexed. And there's also a state law that requires that annexation be contiguous. That means that you have to be next to the city limits in some portion of your property to be able to be annexed. And so we are open to that. We recognize that there are some hurting families in those areas that don't have the water that they need. And so if they are interested in seeking annexation, then we're open to that. And there's a process. We would be happy to facilitate that conversation.
All right. Somebody would like to know, please explain the Citizens Collection Center by Air Park lease to David Arrington for, I guess, oil and gas facilities.
So if you look to the north and west of that Citizen Collection Center there by Midland Air Park, there's already oil and gas operations that have been underway there. And ultimately, for the full scope of his development plan in that area, it will require the area of the Citizens Collection Center. So that has to be moved. That was part of the surface use agreement that we came to with Permian Deep Rock whenever we were negotiating that. They are paying a large portion of the dollars to be able to move that Citizen Collection Center to a different location so that the oil and gas development can progress. But we still provide that amenity to our citizens.
All right, Mayor, we are out of time. Any final thoughts on the campaign?
Well, I am really excited to be running again for Midland Mayor, and I'm happy to ask you for your vote. I ask that you pay attention in my race and then also in the City Council race. Look for the candidates with solutions, not just the candidates that are identifying problems. Jack Ladd and I have demonstrated a track record, along with the rest of our city council, of finding problems and identifying solutions and doing the work to get those solutions accomplished. And we're committed to doing that in the future. So thanks so much.
Mayor, thank you.